In this episode, we delve into the mind and behavior of Prof. Sergey, the terror prof who also gives his verdict of pass or fail in front of his students on the last day. Many former students of Prof. Sergey think he's mean or unreasonable or just straight up crazy, but very few have ever asked what his ethics were and how he comes up with his decisions. Metaethics is how people describe what is good and what is not. It seeks to define the meaning of one's actions and what might happen as a result of them. Normative ethics, on the other hand, seeks to answer whether one should do it in the first place. Being a fellow prof, Sergey has a strong sense of ethics and is actually pretty consistent with his rather odd behavior, whether other agrees with him or not. Sergey is an egoist, which means he acts on his own interests and cares about himself rather than others. This is as opposed to altruists who care greatly about the interests of others rather than themselves. This behavior can be seen in his strict grading system. He does not care about the implications of grades on the students, whether they need to pass to graduate with honors to keep their scholarship or to keep their own self esteem in check. Instead, he prefers to maintain his reputation of high quality by only letting the students he deems worthy to pass. Another topic in normative ethics is the concept of loving thy neighbor. Here, neighbor does not mean someone who lives next door to you or the person right next to you. Neighbors here mean the people who you encounter or influence in your daily life, whether you like them or not, or whether you have met them before or not, which essentially amounts to everyone. It means you should treat everyone with equal respect, love, and kindness. Prof. Sergey, however, is not the biggest fan of this. As shown in his intimidating behavior and menacing record of failing students, he does not treat everyone with the same compassion as he would usually treat himself. Or does he? In normative ethics, love thy neighbor is closely related to the Golden Rule, which simply says to treat others the way you want to be treated. It might not be all that obvious, but Sergey treats people with a very strong sense of discipline. Being consistent with his own morals, he is also consistent with upholding quality with his students. He does not tolerate any form of misbehavior or indiscipline the same way he is stern with himself when a flaw in his strict policy is found. That being said, how does Sergey decide what to do with his students? He has his own view of utilitarianism, the concept of doing the greater good, although his concept of good might be a bit strange in itself. His idea of the greater good is not the emotional form of happiness, but rather the overall quality he sees. Since his ideals are based on quality, his failing of students is justified since he means to only let the best quality pass his fellow class. Overall, the educational standards of UP increase, and he decides that the sadness of a few failed students should not stand in the way of quality. For him, at least, he is doing the greater good for UP. The end justifies the means. This directly contradicts the ideas of deontologists who might argue that failing a mediocre student to maintain quality should not be done. What if all students were to fail? What if he universalized harsh treatment to everyone in the world? Kant said to recognize people as ends in themselves and not means to an end. The end should not justify the means. But Sergey is one tough nut to crack. Sergey also thinks of his failed students as ends. The students will learn to appreciate that the world is not always fair and will take this as an opportunity to grow. This way, he further imposes his ideals of utilitarianism. He thinks his acts are justified. But what does it mean to be justified? What is justice in the first place? His ideas of distributive and punitive justice are simple. People get what they deserve based on the quality of their work. People who take his class seriously get good grades, while the ones who do not get to face his wrath. On the last day of classes, he gives Hot Pie a grade of 1.25 because he argues strongly about the existence of God and his beliefs, which gives Sergey the idea that Hot Pie definitely learned a lot in his class. Juan, however, was disrespectful and even didn't care enough to show up on time to the final exam. He did not comply with Sergey's high standards and therefore failed. By failing Juan as a punishment, Sergey maintains his reputation, deters his future students from being lazy and mediocre, hopes Juan will learn his lesson and improve on his life, and overall maintains the high standards of education in UP. Again,